And it is quite surreal how this issue, which seems very insignificant when you look at the world in the grand scheme of things, is contributing to the outbreak of World War III. I just find this whole thing fascinating. This little tiny region, these little regions, the West Bank, Gaza, I mean, you could fit these little regions in a very, very small part of the United States. These little regions should be insignificant to us, but yet these little regions are like the Achilles heel of much of the world. If you just twist them long enough, you break the world. And the whole world is in uproar against Israel over this. It says here, Israel just drew a new map without saying it out loud. They want to ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians. And look at what it says here. In a significant yet non-binding move, the Israeli legislator has overwhelmingly approved a declaration urging the immediate extension of Israeli sovereignty over Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank and the Jordan Valley. The motion, which passed by a vote of 71-13, was backed by right-wing and center-right factions including Likud, Shas, Religious Zionism, Otzma Yehudit, and Yisrael Beitenu. The text declares that the October 7th, 2023 attack by Hamas, referred to in Israeli political discourse as the Simchat Torah massacre, proves that the creation of a Palestinian state poses a mortal danger to Israel's existence. The Knesset declares that the state of Israel has the natural, historical, and the legal right to all parts of the land of Israel. To all parts of the land of Israel. That would include Gaza. The resolution reads, the Knesset calls on the government of Israel to act without delay to apply sovereignty over all areas of Jewish settlement in Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. This is not symbolic at all. Though labeled symbolic, Palestinian experts view the vote as laying the bureaucratic foundation for a permanent Israeli presence and governance in the West Bank, the heartland of a future Palestinian state as envisioned by international consensus. Saad Nimr, professor of political science at Birzeit University in the West Bank, told RT the implications of the Knesset's move are far-reaching. This is not symbolic at all, Nimr said. It means these settlements are now treated as Israeli cities. They're no longer occupied under military law. This is the legal and bureaucratic infrastructure of annexation. So they want to ethnically cleanse all of the West Bank, all of Gaza. They want to just make all of these areas entirely, purely Jewish. This is about Jewish Lebensraum, Jewish living space. To use a Nazi term, the Nazis used this term Lebensraum, which means living space. And the whole idea of it was to invade Slavic regions like Poland and cleanse these regions of Slavs, slaughter the Slavs, enslave the rest, and then populate these Slavic areas with Germans. And the whole idea was to create living space or living Lebensraum for the German race. So the Jews want to create Lebensraum. The Israeli far-right Jews, or I'm not saying all Jews believe in this, but a lot of them do. The Jewish hardliners, they want to establish Lebensraum. So they see the West Bank and Gaza as their Lebensraum, or as their living space. And they won't stop at just Gaza and the West Bank. These people would go right into Syria, as they already have. They're in southern Syria as we speak. They want to just establish a Jewish empire in the Middle East. And so the world is watching this, and Turkey is watching this, and Turkey and Iran are preparing for a massive war with the Israelis. And a lot of this is really taking place around one issue, and that is the Palestinian issue. And it is quite surreal how this issue, which seems very insignificant when you look at the world in the grand scheme of things, is contributing to the outbreak of World War III. I just find this whole thing fascinating. This little tiny region, these little regions, the West Bank, Gaza, I mean, you could fit these little regions in a very, very small part of the United States. Right, you could fit Israel in New Jersey. You could fit the West Bank in, I don't know, Delaware. You could fit all of Gaza in LA. These little regions should be insignificant to us. But yet, these little regions are like the Achilles heel of much of the world. If you just twist them long enough, you break the world. And the whole world is in uproar against Israel over this. And this war is bringing in Iran, it's pulling in Turkey, it's pulling in the Russians, it's pulling in the Americans. These little regions cause such massive destruction. It's quite amazing how all this works. It really does. It's quite surreal. It's quite surreal. So it says here, he continued, Mr. Nimmer, this Palestinian professor, continued, the Israeli ministries, not the military, will now oversee health, welfare, planning, and infrastructure in these areas. It's not about theory, it's about bulldozers, budgets, and expansion. Dimitri Delani, a member of the Fatah Revolutionary Council, echoed that sentiment. To describe the vote as symbolic is dangerously naive, Delani warned. In Israeli politics, symbolism is often a precursor to de facto annexation. While the Knesset motion lacks binding legislative authority, it institutionalizes consensus in both government and opposition to expand the state of Israel's settler colonial project with new domestic political legitimacy. Delani added that members of the Knesset are already pushing legislation to replace the internationally recognized term West Bank from the biblical with the biblical Judea and Samaria, further entrenching a nationalist narrative in Israeli law. So, what is this going to lead to? What is Israel's recklessness and its brutality and its expansionism going to lead to? I'll show you what it's going to lead to. It's going to lead to this. Turkey, a new rising threat to Israel. This was published recently by a massive Israeli newspaper called Ynet. While the U.S. hosts the talks and urges caution between Israel and Syria, Turkey moves to replace Iran's military role in the region, posing a potential strategic threat that could reshape regional dynamics. Now check this out. A four-hour meeting in Paris between Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shibani, hosted by U.S. Ambassador to Turkey Thomas Burke, marked a rare diplomatic encounter. Despite media efforts, no details of the discussion were disclosed, not even the precise location in Paris. So this is a pretty big deal. And it says here, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, his close ally, escalated the rhetoric by saying, quote, "We won't hesitate." This is what the Turks are saying. "We will not hesitate to use force against Israel," cautioning Israel against military action and accusing it of using the Druze community as a pretext to fuel chaos in Syria. So as Israel grows in its recklessness and in its expansionism, it is pissing off a dog that is meaner and bigger than the Persian dog. You have the Persian dog, and what's being right now unleashed is a bigger, meaner dog. That's what's happening. To use my kind of transatlantic accent there. So it says here, Turkey is positioning itself to fill the void left by Iran's forces in Syria. While no Turkish troops have entered Syria, that's not true, by the way. There are plenty of Turkish soldiers in the Idlib province, and they are Turkish military commanders or Turkish military officers who are training Syrian soldiers right now. So the Syrian military is clearly, the Turkish military is clearly in Syria. But it says here that while no Turkish troops have entered Syria yet, both Ankara and Damascus are discussing a joint defense agreement. This would allow Erdogan to supply not only light and heavy weapons, but also instructors, trainers, and senior military officers in the Syrian army. In essence, Turkey is preparing to replace Iran's military presence in Syria. So Israel pushed Iran out of Syria by contributing to the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad. Now Turkey is taking Iran's place in Syria. So now Israel has something much worse to worry about. That's the thing. Israel has something much worse to worry about. So it says here, Israeli officials view Turkey as a greater threat than Israel's military footprint. Let's read this again. Sorry. Israeli officials, this is pretty big. Israeli officials view Turkey as a greater threat than Iran's military footprint in Syria. Hello, hello, hello. They got rid of Iran and now they're stuck facing something even worse, right? I mean, so much for the high Ashkenazi IQ. Burke said he will not interfere with Syria's decisions, but advised caution in deepening ties with Turkey. His firm tone suggests Washington is uneasy about Ankara's swift moves in Syria and the threats issued by Erdogan and Fidan against Israel. And what the hell is America going to do about it? Is America going to go to war to defend Israel? If America decides to go to war, or if America even talks about going to war to defend Israel, all these American politicians are going to receive the wrath of the Tuckerites. President Donald Trump claimed he has built a relationship of trust with Erdogan, saying he will do whatever I ask of him. Syria, meanwhile, insisted during the Dermer al-Shabani meeting that it has no intention of interfering in Israel's affairs, but strongly requests Israel's withdrawal from its territory. And this is what Turkey wants. Turkey wants Israel to withdraw out of Syria. Turkey wants Israel to withdraw out of Syria. Israel does not want Syria to be unified because that would make it easy for Turkey to have a unified Syria as its protectorate. Rather, Israel wants Syria to remain divided, and that's why it backs the Druze against the Sunni government. And so as long as Syria is divided, Turkey cannot control a unified Syria. Turkey cannot have a unified Syria as its protectorate. It would be impossible because you would just have a divided country. So Turkey wants to end Israel's instigations in Syria, which will eventually lead to a clash.